Have you ever run a marathon? The job search feels a lot like that. If you're in the middle of your search and you're tired and frustrated and so over it, then today is for you. I'm going to give you a burst of energy, and together we'll find your one next step to focus on so that you can get back in the game and make it to your offer waiting for you at the finish line. See, I remember the first time that I ran a marathon, and I have to correct myself actually because it wasn't a marathon, it was a half marathon. I've only ever been able to run half marathons. But the first time, I started really hopeful and had great expectations. I take one turn, take another turn, and it feels great. And mind you, this is in Huntington Beach, California. It is beautiful. But several turns in, several miles in, no matter how many turns I made, I never felt any closer to the finish line. And at mile 8, when you realize you're just not in it anymore? That was me. I'm sitting here going through the motions, my feet hurt, I've got blisters, and finally, it hits me. I have this internal decision point, this thought: Patricia, you're going at a snail's pace. You're never going to get there if you don't change something and start moving faster. So I stopped. I took action. What did I do? I changed my socks because I'm telling you, my feet were killing me. I took a deep breath and I decided it was time to warm up again and to get running. I needed to make it to the finish line. Then, after a few minutes of jogging, I saw how much faster I made progress, and that became motivating. That led to more energy and more running, which led to more motivation. More running, then more motivation, more running, and more motivation. I see the final turn, I take the final stretch, and of course, finally, you did it. You crossed the finish line, just about ready to give up. If you know you're not in it 100%, then right now is your job search moment of realization. Today, you can stop, make a decision, and if you stay till the end, you're going to walk away with the one action you should focus on, the hinge that turns your entire job search around so that you can soon finish your race too. Because I know, trust me, I have been there. I have a severe case of shiny object syndrome. And when things get really hard, I tend to redirect my activity where I'm most successful. And if I'm honest, where it's a whole lot more fun, even if it maybe isn't as helpful. So I'm right here with you. But if we can get through the next 15 minutes, it will literally change how you show up in this job search. It's imperceptible to people who are not part of the situation, but it becomes so obvious to your employer. And that's the difference that gets you an offer you cannot help but smile about. I'm working with a few rock stars right now who are in the thick of it. But even though it feels rough on their end, I know that we're going to get to the other side because I've done this over and over again. And so together, they and I can continue moving forward, knowing the finish line is coming up sooner than they think. Hey there, this is the Uncommon Career Podcast, helping you push through and win in your job search. My name is Patricia. I'm your career coach and resilient expert who coincidentally is still looking for the cure to that shiny object syndrome. Helping you enjoy your search and get a better offer faster is at the top of my list, and it's literally become my life's work. And whatever you and I need to do to make that happen, that's what we're going to do. Now, first, if your search is dragging on and you want to know how to get hired in 90 days, then download the 5-step guide at theuncommoncareer.com/90. That's theuncommoncareer.com/90 to speed up your search. Okay, so what we're going to do is walk through 3 steps in a bit of a case study based on one of my clients' experiences. And we're going to call her Stacy for today. And the interesting thing is that her process really came down to 3 main steps when we talk about this part about getting back into the game. And so step 1 is, where am I personally? So if you are here with me and we are running this marathon together, the first question you want to ask yourself is, where am I personally? Now, there's 3 different ways for you to look at this. The first way is physically. So where and how am I spending my time? So think about, is it at the kitchen table and you have focus time and no one's around you and you're able to really get into it and be fully present in your search? Or is it maybe in the car, on a train, on a bus, on a plane, whatever form of transportation, right? The point is it good focus time? Or is it either not enough time or kind of scattered time? And for Stacy, we looked at the data and we realized that there wasn't enough action week to week because when you have data, you can track things and now you can say, okay, there's something that needs to change. Let's figure out the smallest change we can make, see if that works, then move on to a bigger change and then a bigger change, etc. The second way you can look at where am I at personally is not just physically, but also mentally. Am I present and where does my attention naturally lead? For Stacy, one of the questions I asked was a scale of 1 to 100, right? Percentage wise here. How are you feeling? How, in it do you feel? And she was very honest and candid. And I think that's so important in a search because most of us are in this space, but many of us maybe don't want to say it. I know I'm like, oh, I don't want to admit it to myself. But Stacey was like, I feel like I'm at 60%. I feel like I'm just going through the motions, but I want to get out of that. Usually, when we're not at 100%, it's because a part of our belief that the system is going to work is gone. So why would we, right? It makes no sense. I would absolutely be at 60%. Believe me, I'd be at 30% if I didn't feel like something was going to work. And so that's when we said, okay, something's wrong with the system, with the machine of job search, right? And so we tackled that. So part one is where and how am I spending my time? Take a look at the data. Part two is, am I present and where does my attention naturally lead? And the third way that you want to ask yourself, where am I at personally, is on an emotional level. And the question I like to ask here is, how do you feel about the action you're taking or not taking? For Stacey, it meant that she was like, I just don't feel like this is working right now. It was a very honest space. And I think we all need to be honest with ourselves in those moments because every single one of us goes through those moments, particularly when there's rejection and ghosting in the job search. So if you haven't seen much action yet, if your mind is telling you, this doesn't even work, if you're thinking, sure, my brain thinks it's going to work, or I can tell my mind logically, but my heart's just not in it. Any one of those give you an indicator that you might not feel so great about the action you're taking or not taking. This is where coaching is really powerful to see not only what's possibly a blind spot, but also to see the strengths you can leverage, but maybe hadn't thought of yet or just forgot in the middle of the storm. If you want to answer this question together, I so encourage you to hop on a call and you and I can dive into your search and lay out your next step. Sometimes just getting clarity in this one call is all you need. So if you're interested in that, head over to theuncommoncareer.com/call, CALL. All right, so that is step one. Where am I at personally, physically, mentally, emotionally? Step two is to ask yourself, okay, here's where I'm at personally, but where is my search at? Really, the question here is what part of my search seems to be the biggest issue? If you aren't clear on this question, you won't know which lever you need to pull in order to turn things around. And that means that you're going to feel the need to overhaul your entire search, or even worse, you're going to step away from trying to open this door and head over to another door and try to change careers altogether. So, question here is how far am I getting in the search? Am I getting onto one on one conversations with other professionals and potential leaders, hiring leaders? I mean, am I applying? Am I getting screenings? Am I getting past the screening and into the first interview? Am I getting past the first interview into second interviews plus? In Stacey's case, she was getting interviews. She was actually getting a good amount of interviews. She was actually getting several callbacks in a week. But then after that first interview, there was like nothing. We just didn't hear back. And that told us she didn't have to change her targeting of her brand or her resume, at least not yet. That would mean overhauling her entire search, and it just wasn't necessary yet. You don't always have to go all the way to the beginning. For her, it was a little bit different. It was thinking, okay, there's something happening at that interview stage. So let's look at the entire employer experience from that perspective. So now for you, think about your search. What part of your search are you at? Where do you get stuck? Is it one on ones, screenings, interviews? Now that you have that in mind, what is the minimum necessary action you can take to move past that? Your goal here is to pull only one lever at a time. If it does happen to be the interview, then let's go with that example into part three. What does it say about the experience of your employer? Literally, what I want you to do is pretend that you are them. Put on the hiring leader hat and ask yourself, what would they say when they encounter each of your interactions? You might be thinking, oh, the employer is probably thinking, is this what she actually wants to do, or did she just throw her name in the hat? That's going to give you an indication that there's not enough targeting across your interview, maybe even in your branding. A few small tricks are going to help you here. So, if you get into the interview and the sense you get is that they're not sure you really want this. This is where you bring in more enthusiasm, but you also can pre plan and say, okay, in my next interview, I'm going to pre plan my tell me about yourself response to embed investment, meaning you're going to include key points at which you did research on that company. You're going to include, parts of their mission, vision, and values, or something they mentioned in the posting so that they know your interview and your preparation involved investment in them as a company. That's just one of many examples. Maybe you put that employer hat on, and what you instead realize is that your employer is thinking, I expected something totally different based on their resume. And you're thinking, oh, when they saw my resume, they expected A. But when I went into the interview, they experienced B. Those are two different things. Maybe they might be thinking, man, I really want them on the team. I really want her on this team, but I'm just not sure about XYZ. What is that piece? Now you can address that. It's usually a concern, a worry, some sort of a question that they can't ask in the interview, but that you can address so that the assumption's not made. You could also ask, am I speaking to them or am I speaking at them? And again, I'm using interview as example because this was Stacy's example, and it could be the interview, but it could also be the screening. It could also be the resume. If you're speaking to someone, then what you're doing is you are in conversation with them and you're both understanding each other, which means that when they put some information out there, whether verbally and writing, non verbally, you understand the message and then speak to that message. However, if you're speaking at them, it means, hey, I'm going to give you everything and then you need to process, decipher it, and decide what you want to take. It's kind of like, when you're in class, and this was a long time ago for me, but we all remember, right? So, you're in class, you're in your seat, and it's an hour in, and all you hear is, right? Because they're just talking at you. They're not talking to you. They're not talking with you. It's not a two-way conversation. They're just giving you all the textbook information in verbal format. And that is so hard to grasp. So that might be one question that comes up. Am I talking to them or with them? Or am I talking at them? Now, again, for Stacy, this showed up in the fact that she wasn't sure she really felt super strongly about the company. Because remember, for Stacy, it was particularly in the interview that we realized her bottleneck was. And so she didn't feel particularly strongly about the companies that she was interviewing with. But we found out that it might be possible she made those decisions before fully knowing the company and the work to be done. Her reservations were communicated in the interview, whether it was with words or with behavior. You know how sometimes you're talking to someone and you just you have a feeling, right? Well, we both knew, her and I, that that was the case. And we both knew it because in our debrief, she answered questions similar to the ones that we had just gone over, right? If you put the employer hat on, what do you think their experience is? At what point do you think they kind of fell off in terms of attention? What was their nonverbals? What questions did they ask, right? We really went point by point to figure out what exactly is happening. And that's the conclusion that we came to. I also saw in our conversations, even before the interview, that I can sense a bit of like, I'm not really interested in this organization. And so between her and I, we confirmed both what could have been a blind spot, but also was a really great insight for her into what was happening. In this case, what Stacy really needed was first more preparation. She wanted to get really comfortable with her tell me about yourself response to be able to share it and own it as her own. So it didn't feel like she wasn't in the room, but she was just kind of sharing something that felt scripted for her. She also wanted more intentional pre interview kind of warm up activities. She wanted to find deep, genuine alignment. So I don't mean warm up in terms of warming up your voice and your body, although that's super helpful. This was really more of let's spend a few minutes before the interview to really understand this company until we find a strong, genuine point of alignment, a genuine point of connection where she could truly get excited about the role. And then came the 5 minute warm up, which is the energy, the enthusiasm. Quick tip, you can do a couple of jumping jacks, and that will drastically increase your blood flow and also how much energy you show up with. And so she did a couple of warm up activities to go in with 110% energy and enthusiasm. Okay, so how does this story end? Well, let me tell you, that week was a super suspenseful week. We were in touch like every single day, multiple times. She had two, I think three actually. I think she had three interviews lined up that very same week. And I could feel that now she was 100% in, and I was so excited for her. She had tapped into that energy she needed. Of course, we still had a little bit of uncertainty, and the first interview came, but then she knocked it out of the park. Not only that, she got the offer the very next day. And now she realized, oh, I have decision making power to say, yes, I want this offer, or let me wait and see what happens later on this week. And of course, she knocked that out of the park again on Friday, got a second offer, and both the role and the offer were absolutely ideal. And that offer she took. So, what changed? This is important to hone in on because this is a change that's right around the corner for you. For Stacy, she found the hinge on which her search turned. She mastered to tell me about yourself, so she was really comfortable and could easily target even on the spot. She worked on being fully present and invested in the relationship she was building in the moment. And she found genuine connection between her career history, her genuine interests, and the work to be done at this new company. And the outcome, once she found that hinge, it brought life and real authenticity to all her interviews. She saw the impact of her actions on her search, and it got her to the finish line. And so that's the question for you. We've been chatting for several minutes now. So take a quick second. What is the hinge on which your search turns? What's going to change your search for something that feels unmotivating to the jet fuel you need to get to your offer? All in all, no matter where you are in your search, your steps are the same. First, find out exactly where you are personally. That means physically, how you're spending your time. It means mentally, are you fully in the game? And it means emotionally, how do you feel about the action you're taking? Step two, find out exactly where your search is stalling. Is it one-on-ones, screenings, applications? Is it interviews? Are you getting all the way to second interview plus, but just not making it to the offer? So find out exactly where your search is stalling. And third, based on those two questions, pinpoint your one minimum necessary action to turn your search around. Now you've got everything you need to make it to the finish line. But I'm going to make it super easy for you. If you want done with you branding, meaning you don't have to sludge through your resume and figure out if you did it right or not. If you want custom plug and play materials, easy to edit scripts and templates, and built in systems that save you hours and stress every single week, let me make things easy for you. And I dare say it, super fun. Also, you don't have to quiet quit on your job search and settle for far less than you know you're already capable of. So let's partner to save you time, shorten your search, and increase your salary without all the stress. If you're interested in that, book a call and let's chat about it. That's at theuncommoncareer.com/call, CALL. Again, that's theuncommoncareer.com/call if you want to have a conversation about how I can help you enjoy the job search and get it over with a whole lot faster. That's all I've got for you today. I hope you're having a fantastic day. And as always, know that we are cheering you on. We're praying for you, and we'll see you on the next one. Hey, thanks for listening. I really appreciate you spending time with me today. If you found this episode helpful, please tap the 5-star review on the show's homepage in your podcast app. It would absolutely make my day, and it helps others discover the Uncommon Career Podcast. Now, to download your free career resources and learn how I help seasoned professionals land amazing offers in as little as 90 days, click on the link in the description or go to theuncommoncareer.com. Thanks again, and I'll see you on the next one.